We're delighted to welcome Ramesh Ranjan, the co-founder and CEO of the Global HR Community, as our guest on the Every Journey Matters podcast. With over 4 decades of distinguished experience in human resource management, Ramesh has played a pivotal role in shaping the HR landscape in India, holding key leadership positions at renowned organizations such as Schneider Electric India, Chevron Texaco, and Praxair India. He is celebrated not only as a seasoned HR leader, but also as a mentor, a thoughtful author, an executive coach, and a community builder. Under Ramesh's leadership, GHRC has become an award-winning global platform for HR professionals, business leaders, and entrepreneurs dedicated to fostering purpose, passion, and potential in the workplace. He's been recognized among the Silicon India top 10 prominent leadership coaches for 2023, and is a proud member of the prestigious MG25 India Coaches Group, a hand-picked team of coaches trained especially by Dr. Marshall Goldsmith. Now, beyond his corporate achievements, Ramesh is passionate about sharing knowledge. He told us this, having taught as a professor and visiting faculty at leading institutions in India and abroad. He's also the author of Making People Count, How to Measure ROI on Human Capital, which has a foreword by Dave Ulrich, the HR guru, like he calls him. Today, we're looking at talking to Ramesh to explore the intersection of leadership, resilience, the evolving world of work, especially in the times of AI. Now, this podcast was shot in Bangalore, in the office of GHRC, sometime 2 weeks ago, I think. But I'm absolutely excited that reading this preface today is just making me happy to bring this episode to you. I hope you enjoy it. So, Ramesh, my first question for you begins with a present focus. Also, this is where we've met in the present. So, your sort of inspiration behind working on Communios. Tell us a little bit about what brought that idea, what inspired you to start working on a project like this.
Communios is an initiative that we have started where we are helping build communities. Our first initiative was when we started the Global HR Community, or GHRC as it's popularly known as. And then we realized midway through the success of this platform, which enables to bring together people from different diverse sectors to connect, to learn, and to grow. People are wondering why only restricted to the HR fraternity.
Right.
So when we were trying to evangelize it and spread it across to the business and to the community and to the society, people said, "Oh, we are not HR, so we are not. I don't think we can contribute much to the global HR community because we're just not HR."
Right.
And that's where we realized that why do we restrict our offerings just to the HR fraternity? And we realized the power of community. And so we said, let's look at widening our scope of services and then spread this concept of building communities to the entire fraternity, irrespective of the domain. So that's how the concept of Communios came. So Communios is basically the organization which helps build communities.
Okay.
And GHRC is one of the first prime example of how successfully we've been able to build a community of people managers. Basically, it's a digital platform which helps to bring together the various people, whether it's the employees, the organizations, the business leaders, it could be the academicians, the students, or anybody who wants to enable a community within their particular domain. We are there to help them in building communities.
Right.
And our objective is to help the members of the community to discover who they are,
Right.
to help meaningful connections, to help them to learn. And then we hope during this process they also grow. And towards the end, if they want to pay back to the community or to the society, they can contribute back to the society. And that's our guiding principles in terms of discover, to connect, to learn, to grow, and to contribute. I'm very happy to share that Communios has been able to launch 4 communities so far.
Okay.
GHRC being the first, which was almost like the proof of concept.
Pilot, yeah.
And then, of course, we approached Britannia Industries, who showed interest to build a community of managers.
Okay.
So we helped set up Britannia community of managers for them. We worked with Machani Group to help build a Machani tribe of all their managers. And then recently we have tied up with Texnere and helping them build what is known as the Next Tribe community. So we can build any community for anybody. And we strongly believe that this community is a great concept for organizations in terms of individual development as well as organizational development.
What comes to mind when you say these things is I see starting off a paradox that you're using the power of AI to build a community. I mean, we're fast looking at how AI could be threatening us in terms of, taking our jobs and making us more insecure in patterns that we have had so far. Where do you see AI helping you build communities in the projects that you've worked on?
I think the very fact that we are now able to build global communities has been enabled because of AI and digital technologies. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult to reach out to people from across the globe. And today, as you see, whether it's our GHRC, whether it is Britannia community or the Machani tribe, we have members across the globe who are able to come together and participate, collaborate, learn, and grow. I strongly believe that AI is an enabler which helps us in terms of augmenting our connections, helps us in terms of augmenting our learning, helps us in terms of augmenting our relationships with people. It helps us in terms of building curated content personalized to individuals' needs and requirements. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. Every individual has a unique need, whether it comes in terms of building relationships or making connections or in terms of learning or in terms of growing. And this is where I think the power of AI and digital technologies come, which helps you to understand the unique requirements and needs of our members, of individuals, and then tailor make content and direct content which is relevant to the particular individual. And I strongly believe AI is not a threat, it's an enabler which helps augment human skills. And if you are able to leverage it, I think we can provide a much superior stakeholder experience to all our stakeholders.
I like that you're looking at it as an enabler. And when you see that from an enablement perspective, how do you think is the user's experience going to be as part of being, on the tribe of managers, for example, like you've done? What is their experience going into these global digital communities? What will it look like?
It helps in terms of driving personalized content to people.
Okay.
Otherwise, what would happen? Everybody would be fed the same content, be it a learning path, be it your career paths, be it your information or knowledge that you're seeking out. But today, if the platform is able to understand your profile, is able to understand your user behavior, and then if it's able to direct the path to you as to which direction you should go, I think it definitely helps in terms of user experience.
If I were to draw a parallel, it would be with an LMS, which would sort of have personalized curriculums customized to my needs based on my skill and goal in terms of a career path, for example.
Or like a LinkedIn or like a Facebook, right? When you open a LinkedIn, everybody doesn't see the same content. Or on Amazon, everybody doesn't get the same shop, the store. Depending on your browsing history, depending on your shopping history, depending on your interests, you're fed accordingly. So that is what we are trying to attempt at the GHRC and Communios. We are still in the nascent stage, but we are working towards that. It also means that I must have sufficient content. I should have sufficient number of members, sufficient number of engagement. Based on that, the recommendation engine of the AI tool starts working and gets refined and becomes more sophisticated as the journey progresses.
I love that. And so we're bringing diverse mindsets into the offering of content that we are making. How fascinating. And I'm very excited to look at what the experience will be as a user, and I would love to try it. What comes to mind in terms of a question now is because I think being part of the HR. I think you've been in HR much longer as a field than I am. But the fact that we're constantly having to shift perspectives in how we organize employees or manage recruitment or adapt to changes in the organization, these are all very agile processes which are hard for people outside the HR to have visibility into. Do you think Communios.ai as a platform is going to help HR make their systems more agile? I mean, can you talk a little bit about the impact it will have on the HR functioning?
Communios.ai is not an HRMS. It's not a tool which is going to help HR in terms of managing their operations or their systems.
Right.
Communios is basically a platform which is building communities, which helps people to come together, to learn, to connect, and to grow. So to that extent, I think it helps in terms of building organization culture.
Right.
It helps in terms of building engagement. It helps in terms of building morale in the organization. And I hope through these processes, with a well-informed employee, well-engaged employee, and a well-connected employee, the retention and the productivity of the organization will improve. But per se, Communios is not an HRMS tool which helps in terms of managing the HR process and systems.
What is the space you found, the gap you found, that you even came up with an idea like this? I mean, how did you think of creating a community within an organization? Where did that need show up from? If you can talk about
Yeah, that's a great question. I believe that many of us are like a frog in the well.
Right.
We believe that the world around us is what we see within the well.
Yeah.
Right? We are constrained by our vision of what's happening within our community, within our organization, within our academic institutions, or in our family, or in our society.
Yeah.
We develop a narrow view of the outside world.
Right.
Because we see the world through the narrow prism of our organization.
Yeah.
Now that is where I think Communios comes into picture, because it helps people to look beyond their organizations and connect to the outside world. Many times what happens is we are restricted because we are getting into what is known as a comfort zone.
Right.
Comfort zone in terms of managing with people, comfort zone in terms of work, comfort zone in terms of processes, in terms of culture. We don't want to take the risk of going out of a comfort zone and stepping out. But I think today it's very, very imperative that individuals and organizations adopt what is called an outside-in approach.
Right.
To develop a global perspective, to understand what's happening outside of organization, to understand the real customer needs, the stakeholder needs, and then adapt our policies, processes, procedures so that we're able to achieve the organization and the customer needs.
Right.
So that's where the Communios helps in terms of, one, bringing in a global perspective,
Right.
and two, in terms of helping organizations, employees to adopt an outside-in approach.
Right.
And to get to them to know what's happening beyond the walls of the organization. And that is primarily the reason why we felt that there's a big gap over there. I do know that there are other communities, but then we also felt that there is a space for us to operate in this particular area.
Right.
What we have done is, we have got community as the core, and around the community we build an ecosystem.
Okay.
The ecosystem is what we call, which helps our employees, our members, in terms of discovering who they are, in terms of connections, in terms of learning, in terms of growing, and then in terms of contribute. So that's how we differentiate from other communities.
Right.
Because today for us, community is the core, and we have a healthy ecosystem around that, which helps them to really look beyond the realms of their organization.
What I find endearing is the inspiration to look outside our four walls and sort of push ourselves out of the comfort zone. I think that we're much more satisfied in, how we want to eat, the convenience we have around us, how we want to live our lives. The same way we see jobs is doing when it's convenient, but we don't look at our work anymore, where we are extending ourselves or going beyond what is minimum required. And I feel like Communios as a platform is sort of hoping to spark that move out a little bit, to get curious about.
So imagine this platform enabled you and me to come together.
Right.
You are in Stockholm, I am in Bangalore. We never knew before. But this platform helped us to get connected across the globe and then have meaningful conversations. And then in the process, I think both of us are growing.
Yeah.
So that's the power of this community. I guess it's a very powerful tool if organizations and individuals use it and leverage it to their benefit. It helps not only grow individually but also as an organization.
What I can see is that this gap you're filling in for a mentor-mentee sort of ecosystem, and what comes to mind is, as a user, as a learner, from a learner profile, if I'm on this platform, say in Britannia or for any company, for example, then as a entry level employee, I will add in and ask questions of one sort and get back advice or information from people who've gone through my journey. Is that am I understanding it right?
Absolutely. We have got a wall where people can post whatever they want, they can share any information, they can seek any information,
Right.
they can join self interest groups,
Right.
they can create their own group. Like somebody wants to have a group created to talk about mindfulness, you can create a group and invite members from the community who are interested to discuss about mindfulness to come within the particular group. It's a great platform for people to exchange information, to share information, to seek information, to clarify, to debate. And I hope in this process it helps people to grow.
I hear you, because I think we also need more informal ways to exchange information. I think all our content is coming through org announcements, for example, or through processes or SOPs. And there needs to be a more fluid, sort of non judgmental way of information flow in terms of experience.
See, many times there are a lot of questions we may have but may not be able to ask within the confine of an organization.
Right.
But here we don't have that hesitation because you can go and ask. This is a public platform.
Right.
So you can seek out, and then many times you have some ideas,
Right.
you have some views which you want to express, you want to try it out, and here's an opportunity when you can come to the public platform. I forgot to tell you that Communos operates on two bases.
Okay.
We offer what is called as a hybrid platform,
Okay.
where we help organizations to build a private platform which is exclusive only for the members of the organization. Like as I said, the Britannia community, the Britcom is exclusively only for the employees of the Britannia community. But they also have access to the public community, which is GHRC, which is what I talked about, moving out of your comfort zone and going beyond the walls of the organization.
Right.
And participating in the public community. So therefore, we offer as part of Communions a hybrid platform where you have the comfort of operating within your organization and at the same time moving out of your comfort zone and then operating in the public platform. People are being constrained by ideas, by thoughts within the organization. They can experiment it out into the public platform and interact with other professionals, other members, and then try their ideas and other things.
What I'm enjoying listening to this conversation is, I think people as an entry level employee, for example, for someone who's been in a job for 6 months to a year, I think I will get a window view to the possibilities there are, not just within my organization, but we're building the capability of an employee across board.
Absolutely.
So then, Ramesh, as a manager, should I be worried that my team member might come up with difficult career paths that I can't follow up? How will that enable the manager in me?
I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
And let's not fool ourselves. Forget about GHRC. People can still go to LinkedIn. They can still go to Google. They can seek AI support.
Yeah.
And I think nobody can prevent. Today we are in a world of information democracy.
Yes.
Right? So nothing can be hidden from employees, whether it's information, whether it is career possibilities or opportunities. So I think it's better that we embrace openness and transparency, which is what we are attempting to as part of Communios, so that people are well informed and let them take an informed decision depending on what their interests are, how satisfied are they with their current engagement or with their current assignment or their current manager. Let them take a well-informed decision, and if it's inevitable, we can't stop it.
The question also comes in at a point where, we are now amalgamating technology into managerial processes. So I want to sort of pivot into a more humanistic approach. I mean, yes, the platform forms a great stepping stone to, sort of create a community. But then I think also the manager's role is changing and shifting a little bit, not just because of communities,
Right.
but I mean, like you said, information democracy, everyone, it's an equalizer. We have more information access than before. And so, from your experience and your work that you've done in the HR, what would be your sort of advice to managers who are learning to work with people from your vantage point of having led teams of teams, for example, for HR and leaders, the kind of ecosystem that they should create to hold space for this information democracy? What does that organization look like in your mind?
I think it's a very interesting question, and it's quite a challenging question also. First of all, I think managers must embrace technology. Let me be honest, in my 40 years of experience, I find many of the managers or many employees are digitally not very savvy. And in today's world where technology plays a leading role, I think first of all, managers have to be digitally savvy. In the past, I think managers were supposed to be the know-all of all information, and information was private. I grew in a culture and an environment when they said knowledge is power.
Right.
This was 20, 30 years back. But today, with knowledge having been democratized, your subordinate may have more information than you because he's got access to all the information. So you're no more the know-all person in the organization. And that's the first reality which strikes to you, that you don't have that power anymore with you, and everybody's got equal power because they got access to information. And with AI coming in, ChatGPT coming in, AI, which was once the prerogative of the rich and the famous and the labs, today everybody got access to AI, and the average human intelligence, I was told, has gone up by 20 to 30% because of AI. So we must leverage AI, we must leverage technology tools to augment our own capabilities, whether it's knowledge, whether it is our own intelligence, whether it's our skills. We should leverage technology to augment our own capabilities. And then start accepting that people around us, whether they are my subordinates or my peers, are as good as me or even better than me, and start learning to live with it rather than start challenging the environment around us. And I think this is a fundamental shift that people, as I said, we're going to have multi generations at the workplace. The way in which millennials behave, the Gen Zs behave, the Gen X behave, the Gen Y behave are entirely different. So we may have to make some fine tune with our own approach. A one size fit all will not approach. The way you relate with the Gen Y will not work the way you relate with the Gen Z. So we must first of all understand the nuances and the intricacies of each of these generations, and then adapt our style, adapt our strategies, adapt our way of working with them. Otherwise, I think we are not going to be successful at the workplace.
Wow. And what I can see is, I think you talk about humility here, intellectual humility, but also social humility. And you pretty much walk the talk here, because when I see you interact with your team here, you're also like that. You give each one the agency of how they want to run their sphere of work, but also you're sort of backing them and supporting them to make sure that they're still aligned and together
Right.
you're working to the goal. So while I really enjoy watching that being exemplified in the organization that you've put together here, Ramesh, what are some, if we were to multiply this and scale this value that you have, what would it look like in terms of behaviors or examples? How could someone start getting into a mindset of humility? Especially, I mean, if you look at the International Labour Organization reports, the Indian workplace is one of the most toxic workplaces. instances of anger and rage and sadness at work through a Gallup report have also shown to be increasing in India. But there is also an increased an increased amount of people who are more educated, more able to do better, bigger tasks. We're in this paradox where bureaucracy and hierarchical structures are now having to find reasons to change. And so, what would your sort of suggestion be to begin for anyone who's been doing their work as a leader for a substantial time to have to change their perspective? Where should they begin with this change?
Fundamentally, there has to be a shift in the mindset. Gone are the days of boss subordinate relationships. There's nobody called a boss, nobody is called a subordinate in today's generation, in today's context, especially with digital tools and AI around us. We cannot operate with the mindset of a boss and a subordinate. Just like parent and children relationships have changed, like we say, we're no more father and son, we are friends.
Right.
Same way we have to operate on the same platform, saying that we are all colleagues, we are all friends at the workplace. Of course, we have different responsibilities and accountabilities, but there's no question of I'm superior to you, I'm more experienced than you. That's all. But even experience doesn't matter. There are 26-year-olds, 30-year-olds who become CEOs of the companies. I have had instances where people much older than me were reporting into me.
Right.
So experience and age also doesn't come into picture. It's ultimately the capability and performance of the individual. So as I said, the first thing is a mindset that we're no more superior races, just being a manager or a leader. It's just that all of us are equal, but different responsibilities and accountability. And then second, I think we need to be open about it, right? So openness and transparency is key. In the past, confidentiality or sourcing power or keeping power within yourselves was known to be something which is prestigious or something. But today, I think, as I said, with the democratization of knowledge and intelligence, it's no more. So therefore, we must be willing to be open to share knowledge, willing to be open to listen to others, willing to be open to accept ideas and knowledge from others. So openness is very important. And I think transparency.
Yeah.
See, when I say what I mean by transparency is, in the past, I'm the boss, I'm telling you do it.
Right.
Used to work. Authoritarian relationships used to work in the past. But today people are not going to accept it. So that's where transparency comes into picture. We must be able to rationalize, why am I requesting somebody to do something?
Right.
Why am I doing what am I doing? And unless people are convinced of what somebody calls it as a purpose, they know the why behind it, as Simon Sinek says, people are not going to accept your ideas or accept your instructions. Or they may do it, but not with their heart into the work. So therefore, the openness and transparency is very, very key if you want to build meaningful relationships at the workplace with your team members. And then, of course, lastly, I would always say collaboration. You talked about India. I know that we have challenges in terms of teamwork and collaboration. I strongly believe, as they always say, right, that divided we lose and united we win. So therefore, it's very, very important to realize that my success depends on the success of others.
Right.
Similarly, other success depends on the success of me. And therefore, collaboration and teamwork is key for people to be successful at the workplace.
And I also like that, Conscious Together is all about finding ways to collaborate. And
Right.
I love the fact, and it's also probably because of our common HR backgrounds, that HR has always been at the forefront of bridging teams, bridging organization levels, that we bring a common message. How do you see emotional intelligence, mindfulness play a part in the organization? Do you think it is a good idea to introduce it to workplaces? And that's also what Conscious Together is about, that we bring mindfulness-based facilitative workshops into the organization. Do you see it from your HR experience within the Indian sort of scene that it's a good purpose, or there is need for something like this?
Absolutely. Let me go back to my first day of my college 40 years back,
Yeah.
where the first day when they were talking about the subject of management,
Okay.
they asked the students, is management an art or a science?
Right.
So that's a debate which I think goes on even today. Initially, I thought it was all about art, but over the last 2, 3 decades, with technology coming in with data science and big data and a whole lot of invasion of tools, management become more of a science to the extent that it's becoming monotonous and robotic to a great process, to a great extent, with a lot of systems and processes being robotized.
Right.
With COVID coming in and remote work coming into place, the human aspects at the workplace is diminishing.
Right.
And I'm a strong advocate of bring the human back to work. And I think that's where mindfulness is very, very important. As much as management is a science, I think what is missing today is the human factor in organizations. So empathy, emotional intelligence, right? Openness, transparency, listening skills are very, very important today. Otherwise, organizations are not going to survive for a long period of time. And I think mindfulness is very, very important element in this whole process. And with so much of dehumanization happening because of AI and other tools, I think organizations have to be mindful of the fact that we need to bring the human back to work. And then need to look at how do we leverage technology as an enabler, use technology to augment human intelligence, human emotional intelligence, so that we're able to provide a superior stakeholder experience to our stakeholders.
You've said so much in that one sentence. I feel like I want to elaborate it with
Sure.
you, because I mean, I also had that as one of the questions on my list, to say that what do you see as the predicted future for HR in the next 5 to 8 years? Because I think this is also the time when we're seeing the fastest sort of digital transformations. Alongside, of course, people becoming more aware of their identities, etc. What is that going to transform, especially in the Indian scene, the HR and how it works? Tell us a bit more.
Not only HR, I will say the role of any employee in an organization, I would broadly divide it into 3 areas. One is the tactical operational work, which is required to keep the day-to-day running happening.
Right.
The second one is the strategic part. And the third one is the relational part, where we need to work with others to get things done. So what's going to happen is, with now AI coming in, with automation coming in, with digital tools coming in, a lot of our operational and tactical work are going to get taken over by technology, whether we like it or not. So which means that HR has to move away from this being an administrative expert, from just being operational and tactical, has to move up the value chain to become more strategic.
Relational.
And at the same time also, as I said, have to work on the relational aspect, which is what I said earlier, bring the human back to work.
Yes.
So HR's focus will be more about bringing the human back to work, ensuring that AI is used ethically in the organization,
Yes.
and that we still maintain and keep the human aspect of the work intact.
Yeah.
And of course, move strategically so that we become more trusted business partners to our stakeholders.
I love the fact that you bring relational aspect into an individual, but also from an HR perspective. This is something that, through the organizations I've worked within India and outside, the HR fraternity has always found it difficult to talk the business language, to talk strategy, to talk finance, to talk basics of why we should be there, to have a seat at the table where it
Absolutely.
matters. And so, how would you advise people who are looking at a more strategic, growing into more strategic HR sort of roles, to bring their focus for the next 2 or 3 years for their career and skill gap sort of work?
So when I talked about HR moving away from just the operational and tactical role and moving up the value chain, that's what I meant. That in order to become strategic, they need to understand the business.
Yeah.
They need to understand the customers. So in my own example, when I used to work for organizations, I used to go to the field with the sales guys and then go meet customers, go meet distributors, go meet retailers, to understand what the needs of the customers are,
Right.
and at the same time also to understand the difficulties my sales force has in terms of managing the market. So we need to work closely with the business leaders, attend all the business meetings, go into deep to understand our products, services, how are we differentiated from customers, go meet our customers, go meet our stakeholders, and then get fully, converse with what is the organization standing for and what is it that bringing business to the organization. So that is where we need to become business savvy. We need to be building what is called as business acumen and financial acumen skills. Only then the leaders are going to take the business leaders and the other stakeholders are going to take you seriously. Otherwise, HR will be viewed more as a tactical function, and it will lead to so many other challenges in terms of delivery of HR services.
And it's important to make that shift because the representation of the majority of our employees, like the human aspect or the human assets, is represented by the CHRO, is
Right.
represented by the director of human resources. And so to have them have this vision of how to bring this entire workforce together with them is, I think, also very critical. So
Absolutely.
and so I'm looking forward to what Communio sort of blends into, as an ecosystem for that sort of mingle to happen. That will be quite interesting.
Absolutely. As I said, we are in the process of becoming experts in building communities.
Yeah.
We're getting better at it day by day.
Yeah.
We're launching another community this week,
Okay.
which will be on the wraps for the time being,
Yeah.
but something which is entirely different from, say, HR and business.
Okay.
So we can just about build any communities, and I think we are very excited. We look forward to building more communities, whether it's in the management space, whether it's in the HR space, or any other space. We'll be more than happy to help organizations or communities build communities for them to help them to connect, learn, and to grow.
If people wanted to reach out to you, Ramesh, after listening to your views, how would you suggest them to reach out to you?
Through LinkedIn, of course, which
Yeah.
is the biggest professional networking platform at this point of time.
Yeah.
Always it's through on mails, they can reach out to me through the social media,
Yeah.
and of course through your podcast, your contacts, they can reach out to me.
Sure. And if they like, and if they're in Bangalore, they can always
Most happy,
set time up with you.
and we encourage everyone to join the global HR community.
Yes.
And subsequent communities that we're going to come up with, and we're more than happy to collaborate with them, and we welcome them to visit us to experience what is it to be working in an organization like the GHRC and to know more about us.
Fantastic. And before we close, do you have a final couple minutes to close? If you want to summarize and say what is on your mind to listeners of Every Journey Matters, but also to the GHRC who might be very curious to hear your side. Please.
I really liked your concept of every journey matters. And then I'm also a strong believer in what you said before, making ordinary people produce extraordinary results. And I always keep quoting this about the Mars mission, which India, right? The ordinary people of ISRO, the profile of people at ISRO and the profile of people at NASA, it's a sea change of difference. Right? You're the best scientists, the top-notch talent available in the world are working for NASA, and they were able to put the project to the Mars. It took them 10 years to build, and they spent 4,000 equivalent of Indian rupees 4,000 crores, and they took about 10 years to develop it. Whereas ISRO, with a talent profile which is far less than what the NASA has got, with ordinary people, was able to produce it at 400 crores, and in a matter of 2 years, they were able to accomplish it. So I strongly believe that I am also a believer that talent does matter, but a great leader is one who is able to convert ordinary people into extraordinary leaders.
Love that.
And I like that concept with which you started. That is precisely what we are aspiring here at GHRC and Communios, in terms of providing a platform for ordinary people to come and express themselves, to get connected, to learn, and hopefully they grow into becoming extraordinary leaders.
How amazing is that? I think the man behind GHRC, I was very curious about, having heard a lot about you, Ramesh, you being mentioned by your team. You have a fascinating team. There's Shubha, there's Ritika, Pratik, there's Shweta, and Amol, I think, who makes the best arrangements.
He's the one who carries me to office every day.
And make sure everything is working in place. And I think this team, along with the other teams sitting
in Udupi,
I think you have a long way to go. GHRC Communios as a commitment to inspiring change and bringing meaning to people so that we can make ourselves better and create a better community.
I just want to clarify, I'm not the man behind GHRC. There's a whole
Right.
team,
Yes.
right? I strongly believe that a leader is only as good as the team.
Right.
So therefore, it's the collective effort of all the team which is behind GHRC.
Yes, true. But you're the one who is fully into this. But yes, thank you. It has been an absolute honor and privilege to sit down with you and your team to talk today. I think I can only have best wishes sending your way for your vision and appeal to make sense to more people. I hope Communios reaches new heights very soon. And with my best wishes and with the promise that I will come back to this amazing setting.
Right.
Thank you so much for having me.
I want to thank you, first of all, for having us hosted on the show. It's a privilege and pleasure to represent GHRC on this particular show and Communios. And thank you for all the kind words, and it was a great pleasure interacting with you. We only wish that you will evangelize the work that we do in Europe or whichever place you are, and help us to grow, to reach out to more such people. And we'll be happy to have you back whenever you are in Bangalore. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.